Hey there, Domainiacs. Josh here with a very special message. That's definitely an ode thing. And it's definitely past due as well. It's one of those things that I've been kind of putting off because it's a definite. I'm issuing an apology, and it's not an easy thing to do to admit that you were absolutely wrong, and not just wrong, but wrong in the way that you acted. So I'm going to go ahead and address the addressee of this real message, Kevin Smith. Of course, I'm not saying don't watch if you're not Kevin Smith. I'm not making this video just for him. It's more of a message to everyone. We've all been kind of acting like dicks. is the way to put it. I watched the first part of Masters of the Universe Revelation and hated it so much that I did not want to give the rest of it a chance. He-Man and Skeletor both, what's a word that's YouTube safe that I can use? Unalive each other at the end of the first episode, and I mean, they both come back, but it's one of those things that, like, and I do kind of blame, the advertising for this show was set up so it was literally He-Man and Skeletor action figures fighting each other. And I went out and I bought that He-Man, and the Skeletor was on the top shelf, but I went out and bought those figures because I was so pumped about that commercial and ready to go. And then when they literally just aren't there anymore by the end of the first episode, it really sat on me heavy. I had to stop for a second before I loaded up the next episode, thinking like, okay, everything's gonna be fine. They're gonna get up and be like, oh wow, cool, and they didn't. And there was fallout and a time jump and all sorts of stuff. And I just didn't want any part of the next set of what was coming. And that's really where I made my mistake, is because I only watched an unfinished product and then stopped there. And I've publicly talked shit about it ever since. We had Tom Kalinske on here, and we talked bad about it together on here. I mean, he hadn't seen it, but I told him what had happened, and he gave me his opinion based off of my review. Your friend Ming Chen was on an episode of the Next Level podcast with us at PopCon 2023, and I told him and all the live fans and everyone who listened to that episode about how much I hate it. On multiple other episodes of the Next Level podcast, I've talked about it. Really just kind of helping spread the muck and the mire on the name of a guy who doesn't deserve it, because when it gets down to the end of it, all he wanted to do was expand a story that we all loved, and continue it and give it, more story. It's definitely not the original cartoon, and for that I'm so thankful. It's just the things that I didn't like about it, which, I mean, I've put up there several times, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time rehashing the things that I didn't like about it. But, it was definitely the fact that, I don't know if you can see Orko right here. I'm pretty sure he's in the frame. Orko got made into a junkie and then eventually died, but that was only the first part of the story. Part 2 of Revelation, and then Revolution was just wow. It was everything that I didn't get that I wanted in part 1 was then delivered and then expanded upon. The whole, it really irritated me in the first part, because I thought the first part was it. It really irritated me in the first part that it's like, oh hey, there's this crazy AI cult, and we're just going to barely touch on it and then move on and not talk about it ever again. Finally gets back to it, and it's so good. Spoilers, but Orko does come back. He-Man does come back. Skeletor obviously comes back. You can't not have been around the last couple of years and not seen all the merchandise of Skeletor with the Sword of Power, Skelegod. I've got that action figure that's on a top shelf that's not in frame, I have a very extensive Skeletor collection because when I was a child, that Skeletor action figure, it was a hand-me-down. That was my first best friend. And him and Dr. Doom, I don't know why it's the bad guys for me. They just really, I love those characters because Skeletor is just, I will always defend Skeletor. People be like, oh, I don't know, man. This is kind of a weird thing for kids to like. It's a purple dude with no pants. Man, he's got a skull face. And he does magic and he's cool. Leave Skeletor alone, man. Leave Brittany alone. Leave Skeletor alone. But really what this whole rant has been about was an apology. And I hope that I really can't start to begin to make it up to Kevin Smith because I'm not the only one that's been talking shit about it where it's not deserved. So all I'm saying is if you only watched the first part of Masters of the Universe Revelation like most of us did and stopped, you need to watch the second part and Revolutions. I know so many people I've talked to that don't even want to give it a chance, but they literally fix everything because all they were doing was setting up for a greater, grander story. And that's the only way that I can do it without spoiling any more than I already have. Just, y'all know that I'm also vocally about not really liking Netflix and a lot of the content that they produce, but this one gets a pass because it really comes up and picks itself up. And all of the things that it did as like a slight to the fans, as we've been calling it the whole time, was literally just setting up for a bigger story. So definitely give it a chance. If you didn't like it for some of the weird, crazy, woman-hating reasons that I've seen on the internet, I mean, fuck you. That's stupid. If you didn't like it because some of the things that happen to beloved characters, give it a chance and keep watching. And, that's my little spiel. But Kevin, Patrick Smith, I just wanted to say I am so sorry. You've had, whichever bone is the funny bone, that one, you've been supplying the funny bone, all of the vibes since I first saw your movies at a way younger age than I was supposed to. My mom used to watch the E! News in the morning, and they were doing Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I got a hold of the Clerks cartoon, and then, of course, the Clerks movie. I actually loved Mallrats, and I think it was because, it was one of the first ones I saw, and I was so enthralled. And I've even told you in person before that I loved Mallrats, and you were like, bullshit. So, just know that I've definitely been there through your ups and downs. And I do want to apologize for this down, and this one's on my bad. So I'm not only making this video as a platform to say that Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe was fantastic. I'm going to continue to talk about how great it was on the Next Level podcast, just to let everyone else know, because this has been long overdue, and I am sorry, Kevin Smith.